Maxwell Major,
Alfreda Shelton,
Thomas Day,
Nick Young,
Michaela Chatfield.
Preserving Olympic Principles, the 1980 Moscow Games. My fellow Americans, at this moment, massive Soviet troops are attempting to subjugate the fiercely independent and deeply religious people of Afghanistan. This poses the most serious threat to peace since the Second World War. While this debate continues, our diplomacy must be as such. We cannot conduct business as usual with the Soviet Union. I've notified the Olympic Committee that neither the American people nor I will support sending an Olympic team to Moscow for the 1980 Summer Games. The Soviet Union must realize that its decision to use military force in Afghanistan will be costly to every political and economic relationship it values.
The year is 1980, and the state of the world is unrest. Faced with the tension of the Cold War, the Iranian hostage crisis, and now the aggressive invasion of 50,000 heavily armed Soviet troops in Afghanistan, President Carter and his administration are at a standstill.
The Soviets claim to have invaded Afghanistan to protect the country from outside threats. They placed a puppet president in the capital city of Kabul. It is clear to President Carter that Afghanistan is a stepping stone to the Soviets' control over much of the world's oil supply.
In addition, the tension of the Cold War means that taking up arms could result in nuclear warfare. Therefore, the administration must seek alternate diplomatic routes in taking a stand against the recent Soviet invasion.
But according to Olympic law, the United States administration does not have authority to impose an Olympic boycott. The United States Olympic Committee, the USOC, operates independently. Discussions of a boycott have not yet been considered.
This is the story of the 1980 Olympic boycott.
The only Olympic boycott to have ever occurred in United States history.
The choices that were made,
The debates that occurred,
the dreams that were destroyed,
and the dreams that were destroyed.
make this event in history one of current and significant political debate.
Volleyball is my life. My team and I live at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs. Before coming here, I had to balance high school and year-round training. 6 days a week, 48 hours a day. No dances, no proms, no football games. We have given up everything in the hopes of competing in the Olympics.
football games, dances, no way. Now I only have the kind of dreams that I do. In 1976, I was a senior in high school and I went to Montreal to watch the Summer Olympic Games. And that is when I knew what I wanted. I didn't just want to win the Olympics. I wanted to be the first wrestler to pin his way to the Olympic gold. I am going to be an inspiration to others because to me, the Olympics are about strength and power.
The Olympics are about friendship and sacrifice.
The Olympics are about pain and promises. One of the reasons I became a good swimmer was because it internalized a lot of pain for my brother's death. Kyle was a good swimmer. I was short and fat, and no one would have suspected that I'd be an Olympian. But before he died, I promised Kyle that I'd win the state meet for him. The opportunity to compete in the Olympics is a blessing from my brother.
I, Anita France, spokeswoman for the Athletes Advisory Council, speak on behalf of my colleagues and say that we are utterly stunned with the press's suggestion of the Olympic boycott. I respect President Carter, but he's surely bluffing about the boycott.
The president is dead serious about the diplomacy of a boycott. The Soviets' expanding empire cannot be ignored. President Carter has already sent a message to the International Olympic Committee indicating that unless the Soviets withdraw their troops from Afghanistan, halting their quest for Eastern domination, the IOC should move the games to another site.
Mr. Cutler, the OCC will support a change of venue, but a full-on boycott is out of the question.
As the White House counsel, I can confirm that Congress and the American public have both responded with strong support for President Carter. The USOC must vote to do so as well. What we are doing is preserving the quality and the principles of the Olympics, not destroying them.
While rumors of the boycott circulated, a political and emotional debate erupted among the athletes.
This talk of boycott is outrageous! When you talk about the Olympics, you talk about setting sports and politics aside. Jimmy Carter has no right to change that.
I'm not happy about it either, but we have to trust our president. I say that if even one life in Afghanistan is spared, then it's a small sacrifice to give up my Olympic dream.
But they're using us as pawns in their political game of chess.
This is the way the real world works. Besides, Politics has always been in sports. You don't think there were politics involved when Jesse Owens had a run in front of Hitler in 1936? There sure was. There will always be politics in sports.
As a patriotic citizen, I realize a boycott would be a severe blow to the Russians. I believe President Carter is making the best decision he can at this time, even though the very thought of a boycott breaks my heart.
Are you kidding? This is a selfish decision, politically motivated to get back in the good graces of Congress. President Carter's biggest concern is re-election and not Afghanistan.
That is a foolish statement. You need to watch what you say before some reporter hears you.
I think the biggest disappointment is the way the media and press are portraying the Olympic athlete. I was in the grocery store today, dressed in my Olympic sweatsuit, and a stranger called me un-American. How are we the bad guys?
You are not the only one who has endured harsh criticism of other American people, Danny. I refuse to roll over and play dead as they try to take this away from me. If our intention is to force the Soviets out of Afghanistan, there are much more effective alternatives at hand. I believe that a significant political statement can be made to allowing a solitary athlete to walk in opening ceremonies under the Olympic banner. If USOC should vote to support the government and boycott the Moscow Games, I'm prepared to take legal action.
Despite the USOC's desire to attend the Moscow Olympics, the administration pushed hard. Threats of revoking passports and retirement pensions resulted in some serious strong-arming by the government.
On April 12, 1980, the USOC gathered in Colorado Springs for a final vote on whether to accept or reject the call to boycott. Vice President Walter Mondale addressed the delegates before the vote was cast.
As we meet today, the lesson of the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan still waits to be drawn. History holds its breath, for what is at stake is no less than the future security of the civilized world. Your vote is a test of your will, our confidence, our values, and our power to keep peace through peaceful means.
Hours later, the USOC returned to vote to support the American government and stage a boycott. Although it needed to France and 24 of the Olympians launched a civil action lawsuit, their case was dismissed.
My fellow Olympians, my friends, I wish we could be more successful in helping this administration understand how to accomplish its goals with friendship and respect, rather than disappointment and sacrifice. The Olympic movement is strong, and the games go on, with or without America.
The sacrifice made by the 1980 Olympians was not lost on the government. In recognition of their outstanding athletic achievement, H.R. 7482 was passed. This bill authorized the president to award the highest honor that Congress can bestow on a civilian, the Congressional Gold Medal on the 1980 Olympians.
On July 30th, 1980, these Congressional Gold Medals were presented to the 650 athletes of the 1980 Olympic team. President Jimmy Carter spoke to the team.
As I look at your young faces, I realize that you have been unique in the history of amateur sports in our country. If the Olympic team had been in Moscow these past few days, it would have been impossible for us credibly to maintain our leadership on the world scale in seeking freedom in Afghanistan. I know that some of you do not agree with the action taken by the USOC. In your expressions of disagreement, you've been mature and you've been constructive. You have done more to uphold liberty, peace, and the Olympic ideal than any other group of athletes in our history. And for this, I thank you and congratulate you.
As with so many debates in history, only time and hindsight can tell the diplomatic successes, failures, and consequences that result because of choices made.
One of the greatest consequences of the 1980 Olympic boycott occurred in 1984 at the Summer Games in Los Angeles. The Soviets retaliated with a boycott of their own, and many athletes believed that the Olympic gold was not an authentic representation of international athletic achievement until the 1988 Games in Seoul, South Korea.
The Soviet war in Afghanistan resulted in a 9-year conflict and did not officially end until the 15th of February, 1989. The diplomacy of the boycott failed to have any significant impact on this withdrawal of troops.
Even so, the 1980 boycott of the Moscow Olympic Games successfully demonstrated the unity of the American people. Athletes, government officials, and civilians united under the principles of freedom and took a successful symbolic stand.
The 1980 Olympics will best be remembered not by those who competed, but rather by who did not. Their excellence in competition, demonstrated love of country, and enhancement of freedom throughout the world will be remembered forever.